All right, so we are back, and today I want to talk about the UK's potentially most infamous boxer right now, a man that has all the eyeballs right now in the UK boxing scene. He's a silver medalist. He's 8-0-1, thing we're going to talk about in a second. It is Ben Whittaker, and why his rematch with Liam Cameron is a bigger problem than I think people realize. And no, it's not just about the fact that both he and Liam did a John Cena Batista-esque Royal Rumble circa 2005 flip over the top rope before their eventual draw, or the questions about Ben Whittaker's heart, or did he quit in the first fight. It's more about the level of fighter Ben Whittaker is versus what he thinks he is, and how potentially his mindset can absolutely derail everything. What do I mean? The breakdown. Let's go. And speaking of this fight coming up this Saturday, this is the rematch between Ben Whittaker and Liam Cameron, but there's more fights coming up brought to you by The Ring. Guys, you do not want to miss April 26th. I have a massive surprise for you guys yet to be announced, but this fight, Chris Eubank Jr., Conor Benn, is one for British boxing's history. Sold out Tottenham Stadium. Anthony Yarde versus Lyndon Arthur on the undercard. Liam Smith and Aaron McKenna on the undercard. Vidal Riley's taking on Chev Clark in a fight you do not want to miss. And by the way, tomorrow right here on this channel, we'll have Vidal Riley to talk about that fight. And Chris Billum Smith, former cruiserweight champions, taking on Brandon Glanton. This is a banger of a card. And I think every fight is going to deliver, just like the two cards the next week after. May 2nd, Fatal Fury, Times Square. Again, big surprise coming your way right here on this channel for that card. And then May 3rd, Canelo Williams Skull. The Ring doing it like nobody else can between those ropes of the squared circle. Do not miss those banger cards. And also, when you go to watch on DAZN, click that link below and use my code. Maybe you'll see me outside of this studio, potentially somewhere else live on DAZN. Anyway, before we get to those cards, let's talk about this weekend. Ben Whittaker versus Liam Cameron, the rematch, and why I think it's make or break time for Ben Whittaker. Like I said, Ben Whittaker, if you haven't seen him on this channel before, you've seen him in every social clip everywhere when it comes to boxing. He is flashy, he has style, he is confident, bordering on, not even, he's cocky, he's arrogant, but he usually backs it up in the ring because he's got high-level skills, speed, and ability when it comes to the squared circle. He's a silver medalist, and going into the pro ranks, a lot of hype behind what he potentially eventually would be. And that style of fighting combined with the hype around you can do a couple of things. One, it will get you a massive fan base very quickly because he's doing stuff like, well, quite frankly, what we're seeing on screen here. He's a character, to say the least, and you got to see a lot of that in the Olympics. And as he's hit the pro scene, you've seen a lot more of that. The shots to the body there, the in and out movements, the taunts, the feints. It does somewhat remind you of a Prince Nassim. I think if a lot of people see the similarities between the two, it's because they're flashy and they talk a big game while backing it up. And for the most part, like I said, that can gain you a lot of fans, but it can also put you in a position to piss a lot of people off. And the moment that the moment becomes either too big for you or that things don't go your way, the risk and reward of being so brash, being so cocky, is that it will come back to bite you. And in the Liam Cameron first fight, it did. And I think that happened for a couple of reasons. Number one, yeah, I do think that he underestimated Liam Cameron because this is a guy in Liam Cameron who has not been knocked out before. He has 23 wins, 6 losses, but all of his losses are coming by decision. He's not losing by being knocked out. So what does that tell you about a fighter? That means they're going to be stuck in from the moment the first bell goes until the last round. And speaking of the last round, we'll get to why that's a big discrepancy in the rematch coming up. But the first fight with Cameron was an eye-opening tale because what you saw was, in the beginning, Ben Whittaker doing what he does. He was very stiff with his jab. He was fast, he was elusive, and he was catching Cameron on the end of punches without fully committing to being in the pocket. And by proxy, fully committing to throwing big-time power. And as Ben Whittaker started to open up on the other side, you saw Liam Cameron feel like he could take the power punches of Ben Whittaker like he has for every opponent before him and not be fazed by it. And you were starting to see that from Ben Whittaker in fights previously where his power punching as he's going up levels starts to fall off a little bit. As the opponent gets better, more seasoned, more experienced, more durable, the power punching, at least from what we've seen to this point, has started to wane just a bit. And when those power punches aren't shocking his opponent, you start to see some issues with some of the footwork of Ben Whittaker and some of the landing into range and taking pictures of punches while not being able to reset and getting clipped with big shots. Also, a lot of the things that Ben Whittaker does and did in the Cameron fight rely on big, stringent movements. The head movement to get away from punches isn't here. Here, it is way down, turn, evade, back under, turn, evade. It's a lot of movement, and trust me, as a guy that has only had one fight and almost knows damn near nothing about 10-round fighting, especially not 12-round, again, that 10 to 12 discrepancy we're going to talk about in a second. Even 4 rounds of a lot of movement will cause your gas tank to zap big time, and that's what happened. And you combine that with power punching that's not affecting your opponent. You combine that with an opponent that's trying to pressure you forward, that hasn't been stopped before, and quite frankly, doesn't care about your flashiness, doesn't care about all the hype, doesn't care about the newsletters or your Olympic silver medal. Liam Cameron put it on Ben Whittaker in a way that, quite frankly, from the outside looking in, I think a lot of people have pointed the finger and said, yes, potentially he's looked for a way out of that fight. And when that time came and the injury happened over the top rope, again, I have no idea if he was too injured to continue or whatever. I try to err on the side of not saying fighters quit because I am never in their position. But when other fighters say it, like Derek Chisora and others, I kind of have to agree with them. Take a listen.
Just quickly, Derek, Ben Whittaker versus Liam Cameron. A lot of people are calling the accusation that he quit in that fight. Some fighters might do that. What did you feel about that situation?
He quit. He quit. When he came out of the ring, his legs were up in the air. His leg dropped down. He quit.
When those type of things happen, yes, it was a draw, there was an injury, but adversity comes Ben Whittaker's way, and you start to see the fight turning the opposite way of what he's used to experiencing, which is, some would say, front-running in fights. That is a major red flag for an up-and-coming fighter, because when you are rising levels very quickly, and fair play to Ben Whittaker, he was fighting at a higher level than most would with 8 wins in his position. I would say he's fighting at that British level pretty quickly. It's still a test for a reason. It's to test your resolve. It's to test your mindset. It's to test your physical ability to step up the levels and be ready for higher level competition. In that fight, he showed that, quite frankly, I don't know that he is ready for the next level. But none of those things are issues in their own vacuum, right? It's not an issue to have a test early on in your career and not be ready. Many world champions have had losses early on in their career to come back and hold belts at multiple different weight classes. One of the most notable ones is Nonito Donaire. I think he lost his second fight, maybe his debut, and came back and was a 5-division world champion. And it's also not necessarily an issue to not have the biggest punching power. At light heavyweight, 175 pounds, there's a ton of guys that have made it work without being knockout artists. One of them is the best in the world right now. Dimitri Bivol at 175 pounds, not the biggest puncher in the world, but he is able to be elite at everything else. And that's where you look at Ben Whittaker and say, what is he elite at? Is he elite level speed? Is he elite level mindset? Is he elite level toughness? Is he elite level physicality? Is he elite level skills that pay the bills? I don't know that I can say yes to any of those categories right. And I don't mean that as a disrespect to Ben Whittaker. I just don't know. And my worry for Ben Whittaker is, as we head into this rematch, I go back and I look at all the things that surrounded the first fight, all the things that were said, that were done, pre-fight, during the fight, and post-fight. And it feels like Ben Whittaker doesn't believe the things he's saying and doing. I heard him in the build-up talk about what he was going to do to Liam Cameron. I heard him in the post-fight talk about the injury and how he's going to approach the rematch, how it was his worst night, and Liam Cameron didn't even hit hard. He wasn't feeling any of that power. He wasn't even tired, and all of these things that I'm hearing from Ben Whittaker don't match the actions. When he gets cracked with a right hand from Liam Cameron and he circles out, and you can see the ghastly look in his face and the deadness of his legs and everything starting to come downhill in a domino effect in that first fight. Not to say that he was going to lose, but he was going to have to gut out a big-time victory after, again, having success early on and the fight turning in the middle part of those rounds. And then you see him in the face-to-face, and I got to be honest, he is very confident, bordering on arrogant, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's been many American fighters, UK fighters, the likes of it, that I've loved, that were confident, that were arrogant, that were bravos and braggadocious, but they backed it up. So when I see what happened in the first fight, when I see what happened after the first fight, and the way there was a lot of deflection from Ben Whittaker and the confidence that Liam Cameron got going into this rematch, this is why I say it's make or break. This is a moment for Ben Whittaker to tell us who he is, to show us who he is, because right now there's a lot of questions, specifically around who he thinks he is versus who he's shown us he is. Quite frankly, there's a lot of unjustified statements that he's making about Liam Cameron, about himself, about how much higher level he is than Liam and a lot of other people, and really a denial about what happened in that first fight based on his gas tank, his defense, his lack of power shown, or the lack of effectiveness shown in the stuff he was doing, the reliance on his athletic ability and not necessarily his technique that I know is there. Like, you don't become a silver medalist at the lower weight classes by just being an athletic freak. He does have skills. He does have an ability to box at the outside. to get through this fight and take him further on. It's just, what is the commitment level like to getting better at that versus just relying on what's got you to the dance? And that's the question I don't really have the answer for from Ben Whittaker, but it just seems like he doesn't have that answer. Something that was oddly left out of the face-to-face that's a massive deal that I don't know how anyone isn't talking about. Listen to this clip from Liam Cameron, I would say 2 or 3 weeks ago, talking about this fight and how there's a massive discrepancy between the two fighters' contracts that I can't even believe is real.
There's a mess about what contracts, what no one's letting me speak about, so I'm going to try on here. We've signed for a 12-round fight, and they're trying to push it for a 10-rounder, doing everything they can, and I'm not budging. I'm having a 12-round fight, and this is what I tried to do it on. Gloves are off. They won't let me speak about it, and on Sky Sports, they didn't air my interview. When I was signing contract, I thought, he couldn't barely get through 5 rounds. This were weird. This
is no disrespect to my influencer boxing background. I haven't seen anything this goofy since Misfits Boxing did something similar earlier this year. This doesn't happen. A complete fumble, apparently, by Ben Whittaker's team and Ben Shalom. They sent out a 12-round contract and had it signed by both fighters, knowing they wanted a 10-round contract. And fair play to Liam Cameron and Frank Warren, they're not budging on it. Like, yeah, no, you sent us this. It's signed by your guy. We signed it. This is the only formal contract we've agreed to. We're not budging. You messed up. And again, Liam Cameron's right. Go back and look at that fight. Ben Whittaker was sucking wind. He was out of shape, or, punched himself out, or used up a lot of his energy by, doing a lot of the big movements defensively and circling and being on his feet and all those things. So to send out the 12-round contract in the first place, knowing your guy struggled in the first fight, to then go back a couple of weeks later and send out the 10-round contract, it calls the bluff on everything that you're hearing from, again, Ben Whittaker and his team versus what the actions they're showing us are. And by the way, we're at fight week at this point. By the time this video goes out, it'll be the 15th of April. This fight is only days away, and I don't know if it's been fixed. I have no idea if it's a 12-round fight, if it's a 10-round fight, and neither do the fighters, at least publicly right now as we speak. Ultimately, because Ben Whittaker is kind of the A side of this whole thing, it'll probably be a 10-rounder, but still, just the baffling nature of this whole thing. Like, it shows, again, kind of, in a way, a lack of respect to Liam Cameron and a lack of genuine thought and preparation, not just from Ben Whittaker, but his team going into this fight. How important is this fight to you? That's the question, because if it's not important enough to get the contract right, if it's not important enough for Ben Whittaker the first time around to take Liam Cameron seriously, how are we supposed to believe you're taking him seriously when you can't even get him the right contract the second time around? Now, granted, that has nothing to do with Ben Whittaker, and I've seen comments on YouTube watching some of this stuff calling him Ben Whittaker. That's crazy, but the point is, whatever happens, if it's 12, if it's 10, we need to see a different version of Ben Whittaker this time around. Can he get rid of whatever demons he has and people questioning his gas tank, questioning his toughness, questioning his mental toughness to go into this fight and take care of business versus, let's be honest, a tough, gritty, you're going to have to take it from him to beat him, Liam Cameron, that is full of confidence after the first fight, full of confidence after this whole contract botch negotiation situation, and truly believes that he has Ben Whittaker's number. That's what we're going to have to see. And if I am offering a prediction, which I know usually go really badly for me for this fight, I just genuinely have to think that Ben Whittaker can't take the same approach with Liam Cameron and try to bust him up early in this fight, using a lot of that energy, trying to throw big power shots, even if they are to the body where he was open in the first fight, then trying to go upstairs. This guy's a fucking wall. And I have to believe that Ben Whittaker has the ability to box from the outside and win this fight. Is it going to be the most entertaining performance? Is he going to be able to be as flashy? Maybe, maybe not. But what do you want to do here? Do you want to go out and prove people wrong and get a win, show that you are better than what your last fight was? Or do you want to just be the guy that's flashy and throws the punches and dances afterward and eventually runs into a wall that you can't overcome? And I'm not saying don't be yourself for Ben Whittaker. Is he going to be a showman in this fight? Probably. Is he going to do a little dance here and there? Probably. But in my opinion, I think he needs to strip away a lot of the bullshit in this fight. Whatever it is, the rubbing on the opponent's head, that kind of stuff, strip that away. Go and show us what you've been telling us about how good you are and can be. Because if not, a trap fight could absolutely derail Ben Whittaker's career. And I know that it may sound silly to say, but this is a make or break fight for him. No question about it. So, like I said, predictions-wise, I do think Ben Whittaker gets this done. I think he stays on the outside and utilizes his jab and doesn't get into a ton of entanglements and uses his feet economically, meaning he avoids punches without running a marathon in there and eventually outboxes Liam for whatever it is, 10, potentially 12 rounds. I'm telling you right now, though, if this thing is 12 rounds, those 2 extra rounds are a major issue for Ben Whittaker and their team, and they know it, which is why they tried to go with the 10-round fight. So, yeah, while I don't think this will be a pretty fight, I think it'll be a little rough, a little back and forth, but I do see Ben Whittaker walking away as the victor here. Maybe I'm hoping that he's worked on the gas tank, he's worked on the things he needs to, because Liam Cameron is coming for the win. It's a live dog. He knew that first fight that things were going his way and they were turning. This time around, Ben Whittaker has a confident, fire-breathing fucking dragon in front of him, and he's going to have to go slay that thing. What do you guys think happens this weekend? Ben Whittaker, Liam Cameron too. Let me know below. And as always, make sure you guys are subscribed over at The Ring and are tuning in to all the big-time cards coming up. Like I said, April 26th, Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. May 2nd, Ryan Garcia, Rolly Romero, the 3-fight banger of a card. And do not miss May 3rd, Canelo Alvarez versus William Skull. I think that tune in for the fights, but stay around to see where your boy ends up. What happens in all those cards, and particularly for Ben Whittaker this weekend, I don't have those answers, but he better, because in front of the world, it's put up or shut up time. So, guess we'll find out.